Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer Podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Today, we are in for a fabulous episode with our VIP featured guest. She is a journalist, blogger, and podcaster who stays ahead of the latest real estate and home design trends. She is the creator of the home design and staging blog, Styled, Staged, and Sold, which is ranked the #1 home staging blog by FeedSpot for the last 4 years and counting. You can also hear her weekly in a segment called Hot or Not in Home Design that airs nationwide on the Real Estate Today radio show, as well as a weekly podcast. She is, in addition, the host of the Housing Muse Podcast, and that covers the latest home design and real estate trends. So without further ado, please help me welcome Melissa Dittmann Tracey. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's so exciting to be with you as you share your silhouette of success story with us. So thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
Let's help illustrate your silhouette of success with our audience and have you share a little bit about your background with us.
Well, personally, I'm married to a wonderful husband for the past 16 years. I have 3 children, all boys, and 2 dogs, also boys. My household is very active, and I absolutely love it that way. I've moved all across the country over the years, East Coast, West Coast, South, and in between. My husband and I have built 3 new houses in 3 different cities over the years, undergoing the new home construction process. I love real estate and home design. I love to talk about it. And that's exactly what I do. As you mentioned, professionally, I'm a journalist, blogger, and podcaster who covers the national housing market, as well as home design trends. I've written for several publications, many you've probably heard of, some maybe you haven't, but you can find me mostly blogging at Styled, Staged, and Sold, or hearing me weekly on Real Estate Today with the segment Hot or Not, where we put the latest home design trends to a test. So it may be like speckled granite countertops, hot or not, which they're not, or velvet sofas, hot or not. That is very hot right now. So it's a fun way to offer up the latest home design trends in a fun like format. And then my newest thing is the Housing Muse Podcast, my very own podcast to talk more about the latest home design and real estate trends, and to offer up new ideas and inspiration and how to enjoy our homes even more through obtainable and affordable design.
Well, it sounds like just like your household, your business adventures are buzzing as well.
That is so true.
How fun. So thinking on that and everything that you shared, the alarm clock goes off, or whether it's, I like to say the alarm clock, it's probably our cell phones anymore, but the alarm clock goes off and the workday begins for you. What does that look like for you?
Well, no day is exactly the same for me. The days have a mixture of writing, recording, blogging, connecting, and of course, momming it. Most important part of my day is being there for my boys, and I squeeze my work around them. But in general, my mornings mostly do start the same, and my alarm clock goes off very, very early. And that is before most people wake up at 5 a.m. In the wee hours of the morning, I start working. I write about real estate news, home sales reports, real estate trends, home remodeling. I'm on deadline. It gets my adrenaline going. And then as everyone wakes up, I switch hats to the mom hat. I get my kids ready for school, take them to the bus, make lunches. I'm in total mom mode. After that, it's time to recharge before I start my work day, and work being from my home office. I found I need recharge time, and I think this is so important. I'm a big advocate that all of us need to do this more, whether it's a physical or spiritual recharge, better yet, both. But one way I recharge in the morning is I do a morning walk on the local trails, and I love to listen to podcasts. So lately I've been doing a lot of podcasts myself, so I listen to podcasts about podcasting, or I listen to your podcast, Amber. Um, but since it's colder and I live in the Midwest, I will say I have been favoring the treadmill lately, and I have iFit, which has been a total game changer for me. I've been hiking the Swiss Alps at the moment from the Midwest, which is pretty cool. but, but in any case, I like to start my days with a nice recharge early on in the morning. So then I can relax and go jump into a full day on the phone or writing or blogging or recording.
I can picture all of it. I can just see you, just everything. I can see you buzzing. But I want to go back a little bit to when you talked about the wee hours. We sometimes hear different air quote experts talk about how the most successful people wake up early and, get all this done. And now, of course, what I've learned after talking with so many different people is it's different for everybody, but I would be in your boat with getting up early. How about those wee hours? Aren't they the best?
They are. They're very quiet.
Yes, yes. And you get a lot done, don't you?
I get
Yeah.
so much more done. And, initially I did this because it was a way for me to still work while raising my kids when they were really
Yes.
little.
Yeah.
And I needed that quiet time. It's really hard to write when everybody's screaming or getting ready for school. So I would wake up before them and get to work. And I write 5 short stories about real estate, the top news for the day, and I have a deadline at 7 a.m. So I need to be done at 7. It's a deadline for work, but it's also my personal deadline because 7 a.m. That's when my kids wake up. So they definitely need to be done by 7. But it's tough to wake up early in the morning. But if you can train yourself to do it, you can get so much more done. I'm a true believer in that.
Yes, I'm with you on that. And I liked how you shared with us about the recharge time because that's something that so you talk about recharging. Do you have any other ways that you perhaps recharge yourself or unwind or relax? Is there anything that maybe you do later in the evening, or is the morning you get your spurt out and you get to go and get that fresh air?
Yeah, well, I definitely try to devote some time in the morning because I do start my work day so early, and then I have to go into the mom mode, and just before I get back to work, I need some me time in there. Now, I will say, then I go full mode into work, but I have found at times you need some extra motivation or encouragement, and I might not have time later on in the day because my kids come home from school, and then it's back to mom mode. But at times when I need to recharge, another recharge, I found groups, non-work related groups, is very energizing and motivating, and I think it's really important to stay connected in other ways outside of our jobs for motivation. And I'll just give you an example here. When I was single and I was coming from a small town and moved to Washington, D.C. to start my journalism career, I didn't know anyone. And so I decided to join this random group. I joined an adult tap dance class. I always wanted to learn how to tap dance. So I thought, why
Yes.
not? It was a group of all ages of women,
Uh-huh.
and we would come together weekly and learn to tap dance and talk. And I loved it. I was learning something new and I was meeting all these amazing women. And we were all at different chapters in our life, which can make for very powerful friendships. Did this make me a better journalist? Probably not, but the connections gave me that pep and energy that I needed. And I've joined a lot of groups in various aspects throughout my life for that extra motivation or encouragement. When I was a new mom and still trying to squeeze in work, but getting used to staying at home, I joined one of those mom groups and found amazing women to connect with. We'd go on outings with our kids, go out on mom dinner nights. It was a great time to recharge. I think when we're feeling down or lack of motivation or even burnout, turning to these groups or something outside, exploring a hobby. Right now in my life, it's I play in a tennis league. I used to play tennis back in high school, so I'm rediscovering a hobby. So I will do that once a week, and that's just another area in my life where I'm recharging and trying to prevent burnout, which we all need to do.
Agree. I think that is such excellent advice, maybe suggestions, the non work related to get yourself out there. So, tap dancing and tennis. Oh,
Quite a combo, isn't
absolutely.
it? I should try it
Yes.
together.
Right. There you go. You said I think it would make you even a better journalist because it improves just the expansion of having such a diverse group and everybody with those different interests. Talk about getting to the bottom of different situations and experiences within that eclectic group. How neat is that?
Yes, great point. I mean, it puts you in front of different people and connecting with various personalities. And yeah, that definitely helps you in journalism because in journalism you do have a lot of different personalities that you're constantly meeting.
How cool. Talking about your career or maybe it's not your career, maybe it's your personal life, maybe it's tap dancing, I don't know, but tell, share some of maybe your most treasured accomplishments.
Well, I love to tell stories and I love to write and create. And that's kind of what first drew me to journalism. I also like to be the first one to know something and then tell other people it, not in a gossipy way, but I'm not that type of journalist. But I love writing. I love sharing stories like your story, Amber. I know you don't like to talk about how you're a realtor on the show, but Amber is a very successful realtor, and she has taken a very different approach to real estate by putting her office on wheels and driving around in a Mercedes high top van. And I think I called you the Uber of real estate. But I love telling stories like that. And that really first drew me to journalism is those gems of human interest stories. Obviously, journalism has changed a lot, and we all live in busy cultures now. So there, people also want their news fast, and they want to hear it or watch it, and they want it in bite-sized chunks too. So, as a journalist, I've had to adapt through the years. I've had to explore different mediums that go beyond just writing and into broadcast, which is something I never thought I would venture into, but I have to say I'm absolutely loving it. Being on Real Estate Today, the show Hot or Not, was huge for me because that was kind of my first venture into broadcast and into podcasting. And I've had so much fun with that. You know, we do it in a game like format. Is this trend hot or not? And it was a way to connect with people. And then on social media, we usually we set those up as polls so people can weigh in if whether they agree or not. So that's been a lot of fun. Styled, Staged, and Sold, creating that back in, I guess, 2007 when blogging was kind of in its infancy. And being able to connect with people over home design trends and how to prepare your home when you go to sell it. and also to enjoy your home now while you're living in it. I've really enjoyed Style, Stage, and Sold, and I also promote that on Real Estate Today as well. And then another big aspect of my job lately has been branching out with my own podcast, which has been new to me, the Housing Muse. I just launched it this summer, and it's a way for me to provide real estate and home design inspiration to help people enjoy their homes more. And I think that's more important now than ever before.
Yes, definitely agree with you on that. Definitely. We spend so much more time, and we won't reflect back on 2020 in that
Yeah.
capacity. I think for so many, created a different appreciation for our space and wanting to make the most of it and the best of it. So that's fantastic. And at the end, we'll make sure and get all of your resources so we can share that with the audience so they can go check you out. So as we talk a little bit too about styling or maybe the versatility of what you did to adapt, but who or what has influenced you the most, do you think, on your journey or your career?
Well, so many people have influenced me and in so many different ways. I always say I'm like a melting pot of inspiration. On Real Estate Today, working with Stephen Gasquet, the host, he comes from broadcast and television and now into radio and podcasting. And he really taught me to own my voice. He knew that I was writing for Style, Stage, and Sold at the time, and we were sharing a taxi ride after an industry event. And he just started asking me questions. Hey, Melissa, is this trend hot or not? And he was using his booming radio voice. And suddenly he's like, Melissa, white roofs, hot or not? And I would just go into my spiel, and then he'd ask me another one. And I'm sure the taxi driver was so amused. He ended up hearing the very first episode of Hot or Not. He just didn't know it. But, it was just done on the fly. And I was a person who thought I was just kind of a byline. I wrote stories, I was a writer, and suddenly I was owning my voice and I was speaking. And Hot or Not actually ended up on Real Estate Today about 2 weeks after that, after our joking around in a taxi ride. 2 weeks later, it was on the air and playing across the country. And I guess it's been 4 years now, and it's been extended and longer episodes. So it's been really exciting, and it was because I had great mentors like Stephen and others who encouraged me to kind of step outside of my comfort zone, step outside of the computer and just written words and to speak and own my voice.
How fantastic. So, did Stephen realize that he was interviewing you at that? I mean, was he just goofing off and having fun, or did he already have that in his mind, and maybe it just was rather an impromptu, and you just were the perfect one to do it, the exchange with?
Stephen and I had worked together for years at the National Association of Realtors,
Uh
and
huh.
and this was just impromptu. He was
How
just
cool.
kind of we were just goofing off, and it was right after an industry event, heading to the airport, and he was just asking me about the latest trends. And next thing we knew, we're like, wait a minute. Hot or not in home design, that is the perfect segment for the radio show.
Oh, it's magical. And, I go back to some advice that my mom gave me years and years ago. Every day is an interview, no matter what. No matter what it is that you're interviewing for, but we go out there and every day is an interview.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
great advice.
And you guys were on the air. It was meant to be. That is so neat. Such a neat story. So, shifting gears a little bit and reflecting back, and maybe it was past, maybe it's current, but was there ever one specific point in time, event, or key situation in your professional life that really forced you to take a monumental shift within your career or business? What was the result? And whether it was positive or painful, how did going through that situation help you grow?
Great question. I feel like I've had a lot of turning points in my life and my career, and mostly that's because I've moved so much. And journalism has changed so much since I've been in it. With my husband's job, as I mentioned, we've moved to the East Coast, the West Coast, the South, and Midwest, new cities far away from family or friends. I've lived in the desert. I've lived in the snow belt. Right before I had kids, I was working for a national real estate publication in downtown Chicago. I was focused on multimedia storytelling and new approaches to delivering content. And then, bam, we moved across country to California, and I was a first-time mom with a newborn. I was coming from working in the big city and traveling all over the country for my job to this stay-at-home mom role, living in the desert in California, hundreds of miles away from family or friends. And this new mom role, that was the hardest job in the world. It can get lonely when you have this cute little baby who just stares at you and you have to hold all the conversation. But, it's different for everyone. But I still had this desire to write something, anything. And so I felt like to be the best mom, I also needed to fulfill this desire to continue to work. So that's when, during nap times or in the wee hours of the morning, I continued to work as a freelance writer while I raised my child, which later became children. And, that's a tough balance. I've done conference calls and podcasts from the closet or car. During kid nap times, I would work, and I was tired. I wanted to nap too. But I kept at it. And now my kids are in school full time, and I have a lot more time to myself. I've already built the foundation for my career, and now I can just focus on growing it and taking chances and trying new things. So the big development that I'm now going full force on is the Housing Muse, my brand. It started out just my social media handle on Twitter and Instagram, a place to share all this content I was writing about in one place and to connect with others on those topics, like on home design and real estate. But then I was getting invitations to speak at real estate brokerages on home design trends and how to use that in the marketing of listings. And then my segment on Real Estate Today, Hot or Not, was getting some buzz, and people wanted to talk home trends with me. And so I decided I wanted to talk more about that. And that's when I launched my own podcast this summer, The Housing Muse, where I talk more about these trends and offer practical inspiration on topics about real estate and home design. It's all evolving, but the Housing Muse is my own business and kind of the newest tier in my journalism career. It has brought me so many connections and opportunities already. And honestly, it was just a social media handle I dreamed up while my child was napping one day, and decided to give it a try, one baby step at a time, pardon the bad pun there. But moving it beyond just a social media handle has been a really exciting step for me lately.
I think that is an epic example. An answer to the question. That is fantastic. Yes, I think so many of us can relate to locking ourselves away, or raising my hand with, it was right there with you, locking myself in the master bathroom and taking calls from clients in the bathtub, thinking if they could only see this, they how I'm professional, but it's real life and you have to do those things.
I know, video conferencing has really added a new element lately. I think back in the early days, if there was video conferencing during some of that.
But it ate even the playing field, didn't it? Last year. I mean, it really did. But yes, I think we had to do that, but now it's game face back on. So, oh, Melissa, you're making my cheeks hurt. So we're going to take a quick break to hear from this episode's sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Is it time to sell your home? Build that dream home? Right size? Or are you ready to invest in real estate? Couture Real Estate Firm is a local female-owned independent brokerage laser-focused on services exclusively tailored to our clients' real estate goals. With our forward-thinking business model, we have a fully mobile, luxury real estate concept allowing convenience, flexibility, efficiency for our clients in style. Amber Weitzer, broker-owner of Couture Real Estate Firm, has over 20 years in the real estate industry and is a second-generation broker. She provides straightforward business practices, integrity, and intelligence with a commitment to a high-touch, consistent customer service experience. We take great pride in our reputation as a strong, referral-based brokerage. Discretion, tenacity, respect, and proactive business practices have earned Couture Real Estate Firm a loyal, repeat client business with a trusted global partner network. We strive for ultimate client satisfaction with successful results, doing it with class, consciousness, and a little avant-garde. In addition to serving our clients and vendor partners, we are extremely honored to be actively engaged in supporting the communities we serve by promoting small businesses, schools, and nonprofits. Real estate is direct sales business at its core, and we are highly trained sales professionals with the Mike Ferry organization adding dimension to the industry. Passionate about customer service, dedicated to client satisfaction, and driven to achieve successful results for our clients. Call Couture Real Estate Firm today at 817-233-7239 to discuss your real estate goals.
And we're back. Okay. So again, cheekbones are still hurting in a great way. You had me smiling even, going through your story there. Looking back to as you entered your career of journalism, or as you talked about launching your podcast last summer, or any of your, adventures, is there a piece of advice or something that you wish someone would have told you before you dove into either your business, your career, or one of your new adventures? Is there something that you hang on to that you find really valuable now that you would want to share with the audience?
I think a good piece of advice is be willing to work for it. I know when I was fresh out of journalism school, I thought I could just walk into the biggest newspaper. I wanted to work for USA Today. And why USA Today? Because it was one of the few publications people were still reading, newspapers, that is, or write for People magazine, which I did get to do later on in my career. But I thought fresh out of school, I wanted to go write for the top publication. And that would have been a huge mistake. I'm glad it didn't happen because you need to work your way up. And that's actually a good thing. It'll make you better at what you do. Paying your dues is tough, though. Working at a small community newspaper like I had to, long hours, city council meetings where everyone was screaming at one another. I was moving to a new city after new city because that's kind of what you did in journalism until I finally met my future husband in Washington, D.C. And then I'm like, maybe I'll stay a while. But all my jobs helped lead me to today. And I believe it made me a better journalist, even though it is nothing what I originally planned. I started out at a twice daily newspaper, which was very rare at the time. Deadlines were always 5 minutes ago. I learned how to write fast. And now I write 25 real estate stories a week for a real estate publication news service in the early morning. And I've done that for 10 years while raising my kids. So that skill set served me really well, and it allowed me to stay active in the business even while raising my children through the early years. Also, my past journalism jobs, I learned the power of good storytelling. When I worked for magazines, I was able to connect with real people really in depth and be able to tell their stories. I had to be curious, and I learned how to talk to all different types of personalities, which is such a huge skill set. I also interned at CNBC early on in my career, and I got a close eye on the broadcast business. Crazy busy news cycle. Stocks are up. No, they're down. In any case, I picked up a lot of finance knowledge during that time that I could later take to real estate. And then I also worked for a psychology publication for a while, writing about cults and the power of influence during the 2001 terrorist attacks. That was a really heavy topic, and writing about social psychology experiments that were fascinating. But arrived in real estate, a niche I honestly never saw coming. And I came to the housing market at a very unique time. The housing market crashed in the Great Recession, and I found home sellers and realtors all needed therapists. I could use my psychology writing experience.
I was going to say that pulls in perfectly into the industry. It truly does.
It does. It was perfect timing.
Yes.
Uh, but seriously, I mean, psychology has so much great research for real estate and sales professionals on how to be better at their jobs and connecting with others, selling
Yes.
homes using pricing psychology. And so I combined that past knowledge with what I was writing about currently. And on the Housing Muse podcast, my most popular episode to date is about the power of color psychology, using science to inform your wall colors. So I'm grateful for my background in journalism. It took a lot of twists and turns. I never saw any of them coming, but I'm so grateful I didn't just get a great job at this big fancy newspaper where probably would have been fetching someone coffee instead of learning more about how to be a better journalist. And by doing it and doing it at all levels and being able to explore different ways to tell a story too, and lots of hands-on experience. So I'm very grateful for that varied experience that I've had in journalism.
What profound wisdom, the salt of the earth wisdom to work for it, be willing to work for it and put in the time. And maybe even looking back at the younger generations, or when they think that they're supposed to have it all planned out in high school and what college they're going to and what career. But for those that do discover that, like you mentioned, twists and turns and not always the direct path, the wealth that you gain from all those different experiences, which it sounds like you did as well, just all those foundational blocks that you get to add on and add on. It's fantastic.
Exactly. You can take all those experiences, and I think it'll make you better in the end at whatever you do choose to do. And you'll probably have fewer regrets because you'll have hopefully had the opportunity to try a lot of different things. So I'm so grateful that I was able to explore so many paths in journalism. And ultimately, it led me to real estate and home design. Again, never saw that one coming, but absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's great. So, in respecting the time and your schedule, we will start to wrap up. But I also want to ask two more important questions of you, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Excellent. Okay. So we are always continually supporting each other and sharing great resources that may help inspire or uplift and encourage. So, do you have a favorite author or resource or genre that you'd like to share with the audience? And if so, what makes it a favorite?
Great question. Well, I have lots of sayings that I love. It's hard to pick one, but one expression and one quote that I absolutely love. And it comes from Benjamin E. Mays, who was an educator and known as a mentor to Martin Luther King. And he said, "The tragedy of life is not found in failure, but complacency, not in doing too much, but doing too little." I love that quote because I think too often we get set in our routines and schedules and our bubbles of connections. But when we try to structure everything or to fit everything into the same old routine, we miss out on opportunity. We miss out on spontaneity and we miss meeting new people. And I try to be cognizant of that professionally and personally. Personally, I try not to get too stuck in routines with my kids and make every day the same. It's the days that aren't the same that they will remember the most. It's the day they come home from school and I tell them not to do their homework, but get in the car and let's go get some ice cream. I think professionally, routine and the same old way of doing things, it's a very tough habit to break. But when we allow ourselves to explore new opportunities, to step out with a new idea, new doors can open. As I mentioned, I thought I was only a writer when it came to journalism, but I've learned I can produce and edit podcasts. I can create videos from scratch. I can create blogs and photo galleries. I can even design podcast covers. Who knew? Now, there's a balance, of course, and skill set. That's really important. I've learned what I'm good at and what I'm not good at along the way, and failure is part of learning. But I took some chances on exploring new things and not staying with the same old or within my own bubble and stepping out to new opportunities, even when they make us feel a little uncomfortable. Like, honestly, Amber, being on your podcast and talking about myself. But I think it's important that we don't become complacent, that we do take chances.
It sounds like I'll insert a third word now that just came to mind after you said that, but courageous. But the advice is both practical, but it's beautiful, and it makes for a more vibrant life and world for the rest of us. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer Podcast, Silhouettes of Success.